Pedro Pascal has become one of the biggest name actors in the world, but to get his big break, he actually had to lie and he joined a lot of other celebrities doing so. And when Pedro Pascal started acting, he wasn't actually able to find any work for the first half a decade, where he was living on the couch of fellow actor Sarah Paulson, who actually loaned him money regularly. Pedro Pascal felt the reason he wasn't getting a lot of work early on in his career was because he was of Chilean descent, so people wouldn't let him audition for white people roles because his name was Pedro Pascal, but then when he wanted to audition for Hispanic roles, they'd look at him and say he was too light-skinned. And Pedro Pascal said the other issue he ran into early on in his career was even when he was auditioning for smaller parts, they'd always ask him what experience he has, and he'd have to answer he had none. But when he entered his mid-20s, he began making a lot of lies to producers, saying that he had success as a child actor, saying he was the kid from the movie Empire of the Sun, which was a Steven Spielberg film in 1987. And that performance was actually done by none other than Christian Bale, and many people in Hollywood failed to believe it was actually Pedro Pascal in the role, so that lie didn't go far. And then in the late 1990s, Pedro Pascal was offered a chance to star in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but he ran into the issue that they asked him once again what was his experience. So when he was asked about experience, he made the claim to the producers that he didn't have any experience yet, but he was just offered a role to be in season 3 of Twin Peaks. Which Twin Peaks was a supernatural show in the early 1990s, and even though it only went for 2 seasons and 30 episodes, it did develop a cult following. In 1999, there was a rumor from the show's creator David Lynch that they were going to do a 3rd season, so Pedro Pascal just lied saying the 3rd season was already confirmed and he was hired for it. So because that lie at age 24, Pedro Pascal got a small part in the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which started his career, but he wasn't the only big-name celebrity who actually began as a liar. That was a minor role, but there was actually a very major role that happened with Sadie Sink, who lied saying she had the ability to rollerblade and skateboard to get cast in Stranger Things. And when Sadie Sink first tried to audition for the 2nd season of Stranger Things, she ran into the issue where the producers told her she wasn't allowed to actually audition. And the reason was because when Sadie Sink auditioned, she was 14 years old, making her 2 years older than Millie Bobby Brown was at the time, and they didn't like the idea of Max being older than 11. Because when creating the character of Max, they originally had the idea to hire someone who was a year younger than Millie Bobby Brown was, because they wanted someone who would fill the role of being the crazy younger sister. Sadie Sink was able to get around that by doing a lot of begging to the producer, and then because of that, they introduced her to the Duffer Brothers, who thought she was perfect for the part and stopped caring about her age. And they also ran into the issue that they were looking for an actress who had the ability to skate and rollerblade, which Sadie Sink didn't know how to do either. Because Sadie Sink already made it that far, she did the only logical thing, that was to lie, making the claim that she's been rollerblading and skateboarding for years. But then during rehearsal, she got busted on the lie pretty much instantly, so the producers did arrange for her to get lessons on skateboarding, and they decided to write out the element of her character that would involve rollerblading. But at least that's a fairly easy skill to get some basics down on. It could be a lot worse when you're dealing with a living, breathing animal like Scarlett Johansson had to do when she made the claim she knew how to ride horses to get the role in The Horse Whisperer. Scarlett Johansson definitely had a rough start to acting, where her first role ever was a small part in the movie North with Elijah Wood, but that ended up being a huge failure, only making $12 million on a budget of $50 million. She didn't have much luck on TV either, where in 1995 she did the pilot episode for the show The Client, but she wasn't invited back for future episodes. The show was a failure, going only for 22 episodes. Then her first movie with decent screen time was Home Alone 3, which even though that was a success, making $79 million on a budget of $32 million, it did get bad reviews and at the same time made $300 million less than Home Alone 2 did. Then Scarlett Johansson received an offer to do the movie The Horse Whisperer, but ran into the issue that they wanted an actress who knew how to ride horses. Growing up in New York City, she actually revealed she never even touched a horse, but she told the producers that she was skilled in horse riding and would go upstate with her family to ride horses regularly. It was a total lie that she got busted on early on, but the good thing was they did still manage to keep her in the movie and just teach her lessons while she was filming, and the movie was a huge success, making $187 million on a budget of $60 million. And claiming to know how to ride horses seems like the most common lie any actor or actress makes, where Anne Hathaway also lied about the ability to ride horses to get cast in Brokeback Mountain. And there was also Rachel McAdams, who lied saying she knew how to ride horses in 2013 to get cast in the movie To the Wonder. And Eddie Redmayne also lied saying he had the ability to ride horses to get cast in the show Elizabeth I, which did start his career, and since then he's done 6 movies where he's had to ride a horse afterwards. But that's a really complex skill like knowing how to ride a horse, but there's also simple skills like knowing how to drive a car, which Paul Mescal actually didn't know how to do until he was cast in the show Normal People in 2020. I explained that Paul Mescal grew up in a part of Ireland where it wasn't needed to know how to drive because everything was so close by, and they also used public transit for a lot of things getting around. So when he got cast in the show Normal People, he actually didn't know how to drive, but his agent lied for him, saying he had the ability to drive, and then after he got the part, the agent booked him lessons at a driving school. Those are skills, but what happens when a person actually lies about everything in their life, including their age, such as Mila Kunis, who lied saying she was 18 years old when she was 14? That was because when Mila Kunis auditioned to be in That 70s Show, they were requiring all the actors to be over the age of 18 for legal reasons, because there were going to be scenes involving the characters making out and also work requirements. She lied and made it through 4 rounds of auditions until the producers found out she was actually 14, but because they realized she was such a good actress to make it that far, they had to hire her for the part. That created some controversy down the line because she had her first kiss ever on stage with her eventual husband Ashton Kutcher when she was just 14 and he was 19. Now there's a little bit of controversy about it years later because Danny Masterson bet Ashton Kutcher $10 he wouldn't use his tongue to kiss her on the show, which he ended up doing so, which was pretty inappropriate. There's other things actors have lied about to get parts in the past, with one big example being the movie Red Dawn with Chris Hemsworth, where he lied that he wasn't 6'3" because Josh Hutcherson was 5'5". The reason being the studios don't want the main actor to be seen as short, so Chris Hemsworth actually lied saying he was 5'11", but he was actually 6'3", and then when the producers realized he was clearly too tall, they made all the scenes look like Josh Hutcherson wasn't that much shorter. Back when Chris Hemsworth became Thor, he revealed that was actually the first time in his entire career as an actor where he didn't have to lie saying he was shorter than he actually was and could say his real height. There's also lying about ethnicity, which is a big thing, with one example being Chloe Grace Moretz, who actually lied that she was British to get cast in the movie Hugo. The reason was because the movie's director, Martin Scorsese, only wanted to work with a British actor for the part, but the cast and producer actually really liked Chloe Grace Moretz for the role, so he told her to pretend she was British for Martin Scorsese, which she did, and it worked. And then there's also the flip side of that with Idris Elba, who lied that he wasn't British to get cast in the show The Wire, and actually said he was from urban cities in the United States. And then there's even people everyone likes like Keanu Reeves, who lied that his back wasn't injured when he was being cast for the movie The Matrix. Casting Neo in The Matrix was a really difficult thing, where Will Smith, Leonardo DiCaprio, Sandra Bullock, and Brad Pitt all turned it down, and Keanu Reeves ended up getting the role after Sandra Bullock suggested him. He actually had a back injury that year with a herniated disc in his back, and because that he wasn't actually able to do the stunts, but he still wanted the part, so he just lied saying he was able to, and he managed to do the stunts anyway. And the purpose of this video is it shows that none of these actors are bad people for lying, and it just shows sometimes you have to lie a little bit to get ahead in life. And with that, I'm Charles Perallo. Please subscribe to learn something.